The vast majority of people who over the last few years have started investigating this, they will not go any further. They will not go any further because A, their belief systems won't let them, often their religious belief system, but also they are fearing what other people will think about them if they go into some of these areas I'm going to go into now. What people make of it is up to them. So yes, of course, on one level it does manifest as dark suits sitting round a table discussing the next move. But that's still the play-out world of this conspiracy. It's not its origin. It goes beyond them into the advisors in the shadows, the Mandelsons in this country. Peter Mandelson, if he's not manipulating, he gets withdrawal symptoms, that man. And into the Rahm Emanuels, ditto, in America, the controller, handler of Barack Obama. It goes into deeper levels, beyond them, deep in the hidden secret society network. And eventually, it goes out of this dimension. And that's where this whole thing is really coming from. Beyond the frequency range of visible light. And it involves non-human entities. Some of them people call the greys. The main ones, I would say, and have been saying for a long, long time, take a reptilian form. And they operate outside visible light, and they manipulate this reality through bloodlines, interbreeding bloodlines, that I'll come to. And we call them the Illuminati families. We operate with invisible light, but outside of that, sharing the same space, is infinite other worlds and realities. So yes, it's not just people sitting around a table somewhere in the world discussing the next move. There's the level where we see this unfolding in the news and what have you. Then there's this other dimensional, non-human level. And the rabbit hole doesn't end there. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the deeper you go into the rabbit hole, the more we understand what the game is, the more we can change the game. And if a so-called UFO comes into this reality, it just seems to appear out of flipping nowhere. Because what it's done, it hasn't actually come in, it's just changed its vibrational state to resonate with invisible light, and it's like, it came out of nowhere. And then how often do you see it? Honestly, mate, there was this bloody UFO, and it disappeared just in front of my eyes. What are you on, mate? You on the pop or what? What it's done is increased its vibrational resonance to go beyond on visible light. Therefore, to the observer, it disappears. It doesn't disappear at all. It's left visible light. And this range of frequency we call our world is being manipulated from vibrational frequencies beyond it. Places or areas of the heavens that come up, Orion comes up again and again in relation to these reptilians. And in terms of non-human visitations, so does the Pleiades. So does, in terms of the reptilians, area of the heavens they call the Draco constellation. Which appropriately, coming through the word derivations, brings us draconian. And of course, draconian laws are the Orwellian laws coming in. Very, very appropriate. Sirius is involved as well. So, won't be able to get into this today. There's a lot more to know anyway, but so is what happened to Mars, is all involved in this story. How it became the devastated place it is, but wasn't before. And when I talk about these areas of the heavens, I'm not necessarily talking about those places with invisible light. Because just as we are multidimensional, so planets and stars, etc., are multidimensional. And just as a planet might be devastated within visible light, it's not necessarily devastated on other vibrational frequency levels of itself. Because the Earth too operates in visible light, but also multi-levels, like everything else. Another major part of this story is that when these reptilian entities started intervening, they manipulated human genetics through interbreeding. Not necessarily physical interbreeding, interbreeding through technological methods, and also changing human form by changing the messages, the information. I'll come to this before we finish this section. This interbreeding is talked about and recorded all across the world in the ancient accounts. Of course, I guess because it's the Bible, the best known is this section from Genesis. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were the old men of renown. That's just the biblical version. All across the ancient world you see similar stories and accounts of this interbreeding. Something else goes parallel with the reptilian story. Again, not just in the Bible with the Garden of Eden and all that stuff, which of course the serpent was dominant, but across the ancient accounts. And that is the connection between the reptilian intervention and what we call the fall of man. These reptilian entities, these serpent gods as they were perceived, were widely mentioned throughout the ancient world. And indeed the oldest form of religious worship, going back at least now, this is mainstream science and what have you, at least 70,000 years, is the worship of the serpent. So, and then you see, it's like you unlock something, and when you unlock it, you start to see, I guess in a way, or more than in a way, you're bringing something out of the subconscious to the conscious. For instance, you say to someone, do you remember when we went to the seaside at so-and-so that day, a few years ago? And they go, no, I don't remember that. And then you prompt them and you say, oh yeah, you know, Bill went on the donkey and fell off, don't you remember? Oh yeah. Now from the moment, through Bill falling off the donkey, you have opened that memory. Right. They can now reel off in detail what else happened that day, exactly. A day they couldn't even remember a few minutes ago. Yeah. And so when this reptilian thing came into my life, then you start to see this scale of it, and also all the reptilian imagery around us in so many different ways. What's happened through this great period of human suppression and manipulation is that they have manipulated our sense of perception of self and the world, thus through that dictated that vibrational field, exactly. Therefore what we're drawing in. Yeah. The big awakening now is to understand how this process works. Exactly, yeah. Disconnect from the manipulated sense of self, open up to the true sense of self, and then this whole vibrational field we put out transforms, so what we draw in changes dramatically.
Yeah, that's why more and more people start to talk about feeling now.
Yeah.
Because feeling has nothing to do with thinking. And feeling never lies. If you feel, yeah, I'm inspired, then it's true.
It's
You
like,
cannot fake it.
It's what people call often call intuition, and
Yes.
I have to say that from all the things that have happened to me, I think the thing that changed my life most was 20 years ago. I decided that when my head and my intuition were at odds, I was always going to go with my intuition, and it gets you into some scrapes here and there because that intuitive knowing is coming from another level of awareness,
right,
which doesn't see situations in the same way that this does. From that level of awareness, it can see the river from source to sea. What I call mind can only see the next turn on the river. So what's happening on the river before the next turn can be perceived in dramatically different terms by these two levels of awareness. Mind can see it in small terms. Oh my God, it's a disaster. Oh my goodness me. But the eye levels of awareness are looking at the same situation and saying that is essential because of what's coming. And so what happened to me is I got my mind out of the way. People say he's gone out of his mind. Yes,
yes.
Round of applause. And into some level of consciousness. And
right,
what happens then is you have some scrapes because you're now operating at odds with how mind-dominated humanity thinks you should act and what you should say and what you should think. But after a while, the mind observes, this is my experience anyway, the mind observes that when you follow your intuition, although you may get yourself into some challenges, it all works out in the end.
right.
And it works out not despite what has happened, but because of it.
Yes.
And at this point, the mind starts to say, well, actually, it does work. And the mind and the intuition in most people still, though it's changing, are at war with each other. How often this is what I really love to do.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
No, right, exactly. Yeah.
And what happens when mind and intuition come together is the war stops. And so I've reached the point in my own life where when my intuition says I need to do this, my mind goes, okay, let's go. The war stops. That battle's finished. And,
exactly.
And I can tell you, it's a freedom beyond words,
yes.
beyond
yes.
words. In fact, virtually everything that's worth knowing is beyond words.
Yeah.